So believe it or not, the federal government is supposed to do more than just cause chaos in people's lives. Ideally, the government might even help some people dealing with chaotic situations through no fault of their own. Take victims of scams who are hoping to get the government's attention as Congress works on a new tax bill. Because as our Steve Stager explains, once the scammer gets their take, in comes Uncle Sam.
It's like a cycle that you can't get out of.
Debbie Fox calls it triage trauma. The few months when she was in hiding, ashamed of sending $58,000 to a man named Russell, a man who'd talked to her nonstop for weeks via phone and video chat, then convinced her he was in trouble and needed the money. Debbie was skeptical, but Russell always had the answers.
When I did a withdrawal from my 401k, I knew that there was a tax consequence, and I told him about this, and then he accounted for that in the loan agreement.
The loan agreement, much like Russell, turned out to be bogus. And in those months when Debbie was already ashamed about what happened, the hits kept coming.
It's like one hit after the next after the next. I would just remember being in that tax appointment, and I could not get out of there fast enough to just sob in my car, because here I was having another tax obligation to both the federal and the state.
She paid her scammer $58,000 and the tax man $7,000.
It's heartbreaking.
Bill Sweeney with AARP says what happened to Debbie is happening to scam victims across the country because of a change in law.
If they take the money out of a 401k or a retirement account, the IRS shows up and says, this was income, and you now have to pay taxes on this income that you have given to this criminal. This didn't used to be the law. In 2017, there was an ability to deduct these sorts of things, fraud, theft, or disasters. In the 2017 tax law, they tightened that tax credit up so that it could only be used for natural disasters.
Sweeney says the problem is only escalating with scammers getting more and more sophisticated and convincing.
These criminals do this all day long. They spend all day, every day, figuring out ways to target people, to use psychology, to use artificial intelligence and technology to find exactly the right buttons to press.
The AARP and scam victims like Debbie are pushing Congress to change the law.
This is not the way the government should be funding itself, on the backs of people who have just been a victim of a terrible crime and have lost their entire life savings.
To have your own government then tax you, have that more tax obligation, is just layering it on.
So there have been attempts to change this in Congress, but they've gone nowhere. The AARP hopes that the added pressure of the now sunsetting tax law will get something done for crime victims. They estimate it would cost the government about $100 million in tax revenue, which is really kind of a drop in the bucket when you consider all the money that is lost to fraud these days, Kyle.
Steve, you're talking about the idea of scams getting more sophisticated. I think there might be a misconception that a lot of people are just getting taken because they don't do any research. They don't look into these things.
You know, doing this job for about a year now and talking to so many people who have been through this, you realize that these scammers, it's their full-time job. And a lot of them just spend hours and days doing research on people so that they're more sophisticated in those scams. You add in AI now, you add in all the information that's about you on the internet, it's really, really tough.
All right, Steve Stager, thank you very much.